D&D Beyond now fits in the palm of your hand with the free D&D Beyond app. It's the perfect tool set for beginners, regular players, and seasoned dungeon masters. Play faster with the guided character creator and access your character sheets, spells, and abilities wherever you go. All of your adventures and source books are at your fingertips, even when you're offline. Easily find and access the rules you need when you need them. With more features to come, download the free D&D Beyond app today.
Welcome to another D&D Beyond Dev Update, where I just 10 seconds before we went live noticed a typo in our slide deck, and I just corrected it. Where was the typo? You'll never know, because I'm a professional. I'm Joe Starr. I'm your host. I'm joined again by our amazing community manager, Mellie Doucette. Hey, Mellie, how you doing?
I'm all right. How are you, Joe?
I am excited because we have Ant Pegg on today. I'm super stoked about this. He's our Senior Director of Product Management. This is the man with all the answers. So we're going to get into our 2021 goals with him, a little bit of our 2021 roadmap, and then we're going to open it up. It's not an AMA, it's an AAA, Ask Ant Anything. We're going to open it up to questions from you guys and ask him the big ones, man. Let's trick him into saying something salacious. And
yeah, this is your shot, chat.
This is your shot.
This is your chance.
Yeah, this is our one chance for Ant to get an email from management at Fandom, like, why did you say that? Why did you tell them that? This is it. And of course, yeah, he's gonna kill me. You guys know how to ask questions in chat. Question before your question. Hey, let's run through this timeline real quick, Mellie, so we can get a little more Ant in our lives. Now, available right now, Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft is available for pre-order. That's going to come with a lot of really cool perks, including some very cool digital dice, which I think I'll be able to show you like in the next week, maybe 2 weeks. Soon though. They're really, really cool and spooky, and I'm excited about them. Dice rolling on monster stat blocks for the encounter builder and combat tracker is live in alpha. That means it's available to subscribers. Yet another reason to subscribe to D&D Beyond. Early access to tools. And then the D&D Beyond consolidated app is available now to download on iOS and Android. It's really cool. I've been playing with it a bunch. I think you guys are really going to dig it. It's a really fantastic evolution from the Reader app and the Player app, being able to kind of do everything in one, and it's a really cool foundation for them to really start pushing and adding some really cool stuff in the future. So I'm stoked for that. Hey, Mellie, any commentary, anything to add, anything I screwed up and forgot?
No, I mean, I think that kind of covers everything other than, I mean, we can say, hey, soon more reasons to subscribe, maybe next week. You might want to just, keep an eye out, because I think things will get exciting for subscribers.
Yeah, we got some cool stuff coming next week, so tune in here next week as well. Speaking of next week, diving into the soon category, which doesn't mean that soon means next week. Don't try to trip me up. Soon means whatever I want it to mean, you guys. But soon, starting next week, Jasper's Game Week for suicide prevention and mental health awareness. We had Fenway Jones, their founder, on a couple weeks ago. Jasper's Game Week starts next week. D&D Beyond is hosting a bunch of shows. Some other cool channels are also hosting shows. It's a who's who. It's really like if D&D could have a music festival, this is what it is. All of the auctions for seats have closed, but you'll still be able to make an impact, both for the charity and to the games themselves, because you'll be able to donate to give all the games will be a little different, but you'll be able to donate to affect outcomes of the game. You'll be able to give people re-rolls. You'll be able to give people disadvantages. I believe in my game, a certain donation threshold, you'll be able to just create an NPC and then drop them into my game, and I have to figure it out and deal with it. So that's going to be super, super fun. Head over to the Jasper's Game Day website for that schedule. And thank you guys, as always, for supporting. Let's see here. Van Richten, we already talked about that. Van Richten's Guide pre-order perk reveals coming soon. And also coming pretty soon, our new content team is in place and learning their way around the office. And as soon as they know where the supply closet is and how to find their desk and, like where their parking spot is, I will introduce them to you guys. I'm super excited to have them. I think you guys are going to love them as well. It doesn't mean I'm going anywhere. It just means I got some backup and I'm going to look less exhausted and tired all the time. It's going to be great. It's going to be so fun. And then soonish, a new feedback flow. So, we retired. We officially retired that public-facing Trello board a couple months ago. Candidly, I think it retired itself pretty quickly, as things like that are often want to do, because updating something like that becomes someone's job, and that's usually someone whose time could be better spent creating the things that you guys like about the tool set. However, we have a new process coming to get your feedback, make sure it's going to the right people. And Pat and Andrew, I think, will be back on the show to tell you guys a little more about it. And that's soonish. That is the timeline, Mellie. Let's
it's a great timeline.
I think it's a pretty solid timeline. I think I got it through pretty quickly in time to let's really bring up the main event, shall we? Mellie, do you want to do the honors of introducing
yes, we can
gentlemen?
bring in the man, the myth, the legend, Ant Pegg to the dev update, the man with all the answers, maybe. Hi, Ant. Thanks for coming on the show.
Guys, thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, sir. Our Senior Director of Product Management, thank you for giving us some time. Thank you for intimidating us ahead of time with the weapons wall. I appreciate it. I get the message. Message received.
Yeah, in case you weren't wondering, if last week we were joking about Ant, being the one who assassinates those of us who spoil things.
No.
No comment.
I think just a threat does its job. I don't have to normally say a word about it.
It doesn't actually. The axe usually speaks for itself.
The Churchill quote: "Speak quietly and carry a big stick." I figured a whole wall of weapons would do the job.
That's a lot of big sticks, Ant. This is why
the axe is named the prioritizer. So when we have to get to the backlog, and there's only so many things you can do at once, and we have to get ruthless with ourselves, and the axe comes out.
Oh boy.
Yeah, well, speaking of the axe, speaking of the backlog, speaking of priorities, Ant, you've been talking a little bit to me about sort of the idea of entering this new phase of D&D Beyond, kind of this year and then moving forward. And I was wondering if you could sort of chat with me a little bit about what that means, what it means for the tools, what it means for what we've been working on.
Sure. So I don't want to over glorify it. I know you were talking about like another Churchill quote. This may not be this is like the end of the beginning, but no. So like we've got three main focuses, right, at the moment. The first is the obvious one. We've got to work through our backlog of unsupported rules, right, for the character sheet. So that we want to set that as a primary, always going priority, no matter what else we've got going on. So that means getting on with like the boons, piety, like lycanthropy, things like that. I think you've seen beginning evidence of that recently. Like we got Life Domain Cleric done, which was like when I first got here and I found out we didn't support Life Domain Cleric yet. That was like, we will get this done. So, but and then that leads into the general feature system that I know Pat's come on and talked about a bit, which is what's going to allow us to rapidly support things, both that we don't yet, and also things that have yet to come down the pike from Wizards that we haven't even seen yet. So just a more flexible way of being able to rapidly get those new features in closer to the actual book release, right?
So instead of having to start at zero with, like Dark Gifts is dropping for Van Richten's or something like that, instead of having to start from scratch for that, it's an engine to come.
The absolute last thing I want to do is for us to be putting that, okay, that goes now, that's the last one to come in, so it goes on the end of the list, and we're still trying to count them. We got to get our catch up done, and then we got to be making sure we are therefore in sync the whole time going forward, right?
Right.
But the second main focus for us right now is the integration of our tools, right? So we've gone a long way really fast, and we've thrown out a lot of things. We've got the character sheet, we've got the combat tracker and the encounter builder, and now we've got mobile as well on top of that. I'm seeing myself on camera and I wave my hands a lot. Sorry. The
I say a lot, and it's my job to talk for a living. So we all have our fault. It's all good.
cool.
Yeah.
Now I'm saying the getting things unified and working together, right? So like with the combat tracker, we want the combat tracker as is to be picking up like the players' hit points as they change. We want the players' rolls to come in. And now we have the ability to do that with the game log that we released, right? Dice rolling, which we did a couple months ago. The dice rolling is, that's an essential must-have of play. But underneath that was the large infrastructure component of the game log, from which we can start to hang lots of other things on. But it's also the mechanism by which we can start tying our tools together so that things work well. But that also means we have to build other systems that we haven't done previously. Like there's been a new simplified character service built that nobody's even seen yet, but because that's what's going to allow quickly passing large amounts of multiple characters information around at once, so that things like hit points can be updated all over the place. And it doesn't matter if it's in mobile, doesn't matter if it's an array, doesn't matter if it's on the character sheet in the game log or in the dungeon masters area. It's all over the place, right? And then any new tool we build has to be part of that ecosystem, right? So we have to get things integrated so they play together. So everybody, because D&D is a game you play together, so they shouldn't be disconnected. It should all be together. And then the third main focus this year is looking to increase value for our subscribers. And can't say too much about that yet. That's next week will be the first part of that. Mellie hinted at it. So yeah, tune in next week. I think you've got Bart. Is it Bart that's coming on?
Yeah, Bart will be coming on to chat with us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So those are the three main pillars we've got to pull together, right? And one of the effects that has for us as we move into that new arena of tying all our parts together, now that we have these different parts, tying them together, work together, is now we have to coordinate together. Previously, each of the different areas, like the mobile team's off building the new character sheet, great, they're on their own. Character sheet guys doing what they want to do. The adventures team are off, they get the encounter builder done. And because they're disconnected, the teams can work in silos and do rapid iterative releases whenever they want it. But when these start to cut, now it's these things, as they're integrated, they start to affect all teams. And an example of that is like when the game log launched, and it launched both in the character sheet. So that's the characters team involved. It launched in the DM player, in the DM's area, and in the combat tracker. So that's the adventures team involved. And then it was on mobile as well. So that's the mobile team involved. So at that point, you've got pretty much everyone all has to coordinate for these features that now affect everyone. And another recent example as to why we have to do that, but on the negative side. So we just released game stat rolling on the monster stats, in monster stat blocks in the combat tracker, in the encounter builder, right? Because things are now tied together, putting in that notation and making it so they were rollable had the unintended effect for a day of it made the hyperlinks in the compendiums unclickable. Two things you wouldn't think would be related whatsoever, but they are because of how things work behind the scenes. So that's another reason of why everybody has to be coordinated. So again, that's another thing that we haven't had to do before. So now as we move into this new idea of having the tools connected and working together, it's a new disciplinary muscle we have to practice and get good at flywheel going. So there you go. There it is in a nutshell.
Well, so the nutshell is kind of, I guess we had sort of all these Hydra heads shooting fire in different directions, and now it's really kind of about all of them sort of focusing on one target as we start to really roll out features.
Which coordination. Last thing you need is two dragon heads crossing their streams and breathing on each other.
That's that's just science. That's just science, Ant. I love sort of the way you put it that the digital tool set needs to reflect the way people would play without it. Like it needs to reflect sort of being at the table together and playing together. Are there any things coming or things that we've been thinking about that you're allowed to talk about, to sort of like continue to sort of push that feeling, that the game log and the dice rolling has kind of started?
So I got to be a little careful what I say here. Otherwise, when the call ends, I have to go commit seppuku with one of the blades.
I mean, take your pick.
I have to go punish myself. But if you look at it from where we've come, right, which is we started D&D Beyond. The main thing for us being the character sheet, right, and the character sheet is where you always start as a player, and that's why we are so useful, because it's for everybody. But that's prep, right? You get the rules, the rules, you figure out the rules, you figure out what the world is that you're going to be playing in, you build your character sheet, all that's prep. And then once you're done with that, then you want to play. And that's where the other tools come in. So you can see us moving from now, of course, number one focus, right? Make sure we're covering the rules as they are, which means that's always a pillar for the character sheet. But then it's a matter of how do we move forward into what is the next stage of the game, which is play, and that's shared play, because you play together. So I think it's going to be rather obvious in the coming months as you look at the things that we have coming up, and as they come out, that's what we're looking to make sure is optimal for people, is the play experience. We have a list of product tenets that we repeat to ourselves, and one of them is that our goal is to fade into the background. If what we don't want is for people, DM or player, to be spending more time fiddling around trying to figure out how to use software. We want them playing the game. And so in a lot of ways, our main competitor is pen and paper, literally. Right? We want it, so when you sit down at the table, and say you're using the mobile app, and it's like, okay, you need to roll, you need to look up a roll, it's right there at your fingertips. And you're not instead trying to click around menus, and it's like, where's that buried in the site? And that's not what we want. So,
well, yeah, you sort of talk about as the roadmap becomes a little more clear, and it definitely will be the next coming months, to sort of frame that around subscriber value, and we'll sort of talk about like our first sort of like small step of that next week, I think, and then I'm really excited to watch you guys sort of really start to integrate and get everything on the same page, because now, like, behind the scenes, we're really starting to see that momentum, and just I'm starting to see like the gleam in everybody's eye, and it's pretty cool. So yeah, I think that this first chapter of like talking about subscriber benefits, next week, I think is just going to continue to build, and it's I speak purely just out of someone who really likes the tool set and likes to play. Like, it's going to be a cool year to be a subscriber, a really cool year. And on that ominous note, Mellie, let's open up to questions.
Yeah, let's take a look at some questions. There are actually a lot that you answered just from your initial spiel. So lots of people, you got your answers already, but we're going to jump to a question from Failed Death Saves. Will there be a DM screen where we can view the more important details of our characters on a single page?
So the simple answer is yes. The more detailed answer is it may not be the way you imagine it currently, right? So what you've probably got in your head is a picture of a screen, which is a DM screen.
I still use my Hero Quest screen. That's
right,
my screen of choice.
So when you look at what a screen is static, and the DM screen is like lots of tables and charts and stuff. And right here, that's the second half of Failed Death Saves question. Really, is not the DM screen, but it's the important details of each of our characters, of our players' characters, where and when we need them, right? And the most obvious example of that for what we already have is the combat tracker, and that's one of the reasons the combat tracker is still in alpha. Remember earlier I mentioned that the simplified character data service that was needed to move that information around. So I'm not going to give the time frame on it, and I'm not. not going to say it will be a DM screen, but the purpose of what you're asking for there, the answer is yes.
Yeah, I think the word that you used earlier was DM area. It's could be many things.
A lounge, a DM lounge.
Yes, the DM lounge. That sounds really comfy, actually. Or like a DM spa. I feel like we all need a little bit more relaxation if we're DMs. We got Reikio 407. Will the proposed DM tools be a part of the consolidated app, or will there be, a player app and a DM app, do you think?
So at this time, you never say never in a product, right? Because no matter, I've always described product management as the art of sacrificing one's vision on the altar of compromise. But the goal is for a single app, and we're definitely looking at how we include the DM's capabilities into it's single app. Single app is the focus.
Excellent. We have a few questions about kind of the same thing here. We grab the one from Maximiliano FB. With people asking questions about offering D&D Beyond or sources on D&D Beyond in other languages.
So we were actually talking about that yesterday morning, ironically, in one of our road mapping sessions. How many O's do you need in the word soonish to be at the end of your list of soonish words?
Lots of O's, but
so we are talking about it. It's an undertaking, right? Localization, I've done it before at other places. It is not a simple thing. It is not a quick thing. It's not just a matter of translation, although the translation itself is its own whole area. You can't just use Google Translate and say, voila, we're done. Because if you've ever actually used Google Translate to speak to other people in their native languages, it's fun. Yeah. So it's going to be a while. Sorry, Maximilian of B. It's on the list. It is on the roadmap for sure, and we are talking about it. But lots of O's in the soonish.
Yeah.
I feel like we've coined a phrase.
And to be clear, I should actually be clear, right? There's a difference between our site, ourselves, and like the tools, and then the content which comes from Wizards of the Coast, right?
Yeah.
Wizards of the Coast, they're the one, they're the ones who would give us the translation of the actual content. We're going to handle the translation of things like what's character sheet, what are the words character sheet in Polish and Swahili at the same time.
Yeah. This is a question we get very often, and maybe you can provide a little bit of light for the folks who ask this. We've got Kelbar05. Will we ever see third-party books or third-party content on D&D Beyond, such as Kobold Press, Tome of Beasts? Something that we get asked pretty much every week, Ant.
I would like to. There's a lot that goes into that that's beyond the just going and speaking to the folks that produce that content. I do not know is the straight answer. I want to. I do not know. There's a lot that has to happen to make that happen.
Yeah, because I think it's probably a bit of a conversation too with our partners at Wizards, because we're licensors. I think that's something that it's common for folks to think, as I'm answering things on social media and stuff, for people to think that we are part of Wizards of the Coast. But there are partners, there are friends, but we are licensing the content.
And we are, we take it very seriously that we are protectors of that brand, right? Wizards entrust us with their brand, so that is our number one priority, is to make sure we're treating it with the love and care that it deserves before we look at other things. But again, would like to, but don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. We also have lots of people asking, and I'm just going to say this for the chat, there's lots of people asking about timelines for things. That is not something that we offer. So you can use your question powers for something maybe a little more wider, a little bit more specific about your feature that you really care about. But asking about a timeline, unfortunately, that's not something that we are offering. So there's a lot of questions in here that unfortunately we don't have answers for.
Yeah.
On that note,
I have a feeling Ant could say something very wise about the idea of timelines and why we don't offer them.
Yeah.
Like a Churchill quote or something. Just he has like a very like Liam Neeson, like devil may care, just aura about him. Say something calming about timelines, Ant.
So, well, timelines always change, right? That's the one constant, is that the timelines will change. Priorities change every quarter. We're sorting things. We're ranking them. And I'll throw this in because I have seen this question on other streams when I've been watching about like, how do you guys prioritize, right? So that's the thing, is prioritization is a matter of, first off, there are objectives and things you want to do apply to different objectives. There's the user feedback, right? What we call user impact, and we gather that. Like we have Pat will be on, I'm sure, to talk about the new feedback process, right? But that new feedback process is literally just the tip of the iceberg of having put in a new tool for product management, which, by the way, the Trello thing was never actually used internally. Trello was only ever set up to show, so it was completely disconnected. The new tools that we have are connected. So we've already connected it to the to Zendesk feedback. We've already connected it to pull content from feedback from forums. And also from feedback from the moderators send us from the forums and from Discord. So we've already got that all funneling in now. And then we're able to rate that and say, for any given feature, here is the user impact. Is how many people want it, and this is how important they think it is. And that helps drive priority as well. And so there's objectives, there's business drivers, and then there's user impact. Different things you use to juggle and create the priority. Whatever you set for one quarter, you get to the end of the quarter, and what you thought you were going to work on next, by the time you get to the end, hey, a new book's come out. Guess what? We've got to go off and do custom lineages now. So everything else needs to move for a bit. So that's why we don't give timelines.
Yeah. But that also showcases, I think, how impressively you guys are able to stick and move and stay flexible. It's honestly a thing to watch. It's really cool.
Well, so we've got the list, man. We've got a long and always growing list. And then it's always a matter of juggling which ones we can get to the top and grouping them as well. So that, these three things are like the others. So if we do them together, it's good, but they're not like these other five. So let's do those five together because they are as a group, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think we've got time for two or three more, and then we'll let Ant return to what I'm sure is the growing pile of work.
A very large list that I don't think ever empties. We got Poljack plans about a sidekick system. We got some sidekick rules that were sort of refined from their Essentials kit version in Tasha's. So any commentary on the sidekick system potential for DDB?
I will say, Ant, I'm very interested in this one too. My home game party has a tendency to befriend things more than fight things, and we currently have 6 sidekicks for our party, so we're super interested in this too.
So short and straight answer is yes, there are plans. A few less O's in the Soonish than localization, I would say, at this current point of prioritization. But there are things we got to get through first. Like we want to get through the general feature system for a generic feature system, which actually plays a part towards
sidekicks.
Towards sidekicks, yeah. So it's on the roadmap. Yeah, there are plans. A few O's in the Soonish.
Well, this kind of ties into this, and maybe you don't quite know this. Maybe this is more of Pat and Andrew, but somebody's asking, XTD, when the new feature tracking Trello replacement is released, will there be a priority sort of established? Will that be visible to users? Will they be able to see that this thing is more prioritized? And will it be with the number of O's?
So we will see it, but no, I'm sorry, we're not going to share it.
Because I feel like part of the point is the point of the flow system, and again, Pat will Pat and Andrew probably will be on soon to talk about it a little more, is the fact that it's automating this process for us. So if you drop that feedback into the Discord, if it's in the forums, it's going to pick it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the prioritization, as you were just saying, Ant, is always shifting and changing with how things are kind of clicking together and what the new books need and all these other things. So,
But we live and die by user feedback. We really do. So
yeah.
we have made extreme efforts to gather the feedback from the different places. And that, again, that's part of the thing, is making sure we have less places so it's easy to gather the feedback, right?
Yeah. And I think, I think just a thought based on someone whose previous field involved working like with Rotten Tomatoes a lot and stuff like that. I think there's a danger's a heavy word, but like putting a public facing, like sort of upvoting system for priorities, I think there's a danger in, not that our community is this kind of community, but in gaming that or spamming something like that. And I think then you sort of, if you focus on those sort of inflated kind of things too much, you lose sight of these core things we need to be doing. And I think the really smart way that you guys are processing feedback and prioritizing.
I prefer to, under promise and over deliver, and prefer to delight and surprise, and when you put out a public facing roadmap and then things, it becomes a promise, right? Even though you can put any words around it you want, but you're not creating a promise, but it's going to be taken that way anyway. Mm-hmm. And when you have, if it takes you a long time to get to something, or direction changes and you're not going to get to it, then you're disappointing people. And they would be right to be disappointed because they saw what looks tantamount to a promise on the screen in front of them.
No, well said.
So don't do that.
All right, one more.
Big finish.
Got, from Daryl Wex. Ant, what's your favorite dinosaur?
Triceratops is my number one favorite dinosaur. When I was growing up, my dinosaur book had the peaceful vegetarian eating dinosaur Triceratops first, and then on the next page there it was fighting the horrible T-Rex, and it was the only dinosaur in the book that showed that it was that would stand up to the T-Rex. That and the Brontosaurus, because it did exist and then it didn't, and now it does again.
Which is very mysterious. It definitely adds a very mysterious aura. Well said, Team Triceratops. I'm putting that on the scoreboard for me. Ant, thank you so much for taking some time with us and chatting about some big picture ideas, talking to the community a little bit. We really appreciate you. I know your time is super valuable, man, and we really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. Just hope I was able to answer questions that people wanted answered, and happy to do it.
Well, hopefully we'll have you back on real soon. We'll see you guys a little later today for another D&D Live. We've got some folks from Dwarven Forge and some other really cool special guests. I think Ant might be holding very, very still, or he's frozen.
No, I just wanted to say one thing. I must give a shout out to Staffordshire University's D&D club in the UK, which is where my son is going to university and playing. So
shout outs indeed. Shout outs indeed. Ant, thank you again so much. And again, you guys, if your answer to all of this sounds cool, but I don't have anybody to play with, you do. Head to our forums, head to our Discord. There's always people looking for games, and you deserve to be a part of those games. You really do. I'm going to say that every time, that you are worth taking that chance and finding some friends to play D&D with in our Discord. Please do it. Mellie, thank you so much for being here. Ant, thank you again so much. And we'll see you guys next time.
D&D Beyond now fits in the palm of your hand with the free D&D Beyond app. It's the perfect tool set for beginners, regular players, and seasoned dungeon masters. Play faster with the guided character creator and access your character sheets, spells, and abilities wherever you go. All of your adventures and source books are at your fingertips, even when you're offline. Easily find and access the rules you need when you need them. With more features to come, download the free D&D Beyond app today.